Good evening, you guys. Good evening. It's your boy Ben Mahari here, represent MehariNation Sports Podcast. This is a very special episode of Basketball Conversations. This is going to be episode number 20, and it's a very significant episode to talk about here, guys. So I wanted to come on here live to chop it up with y'all today. Salute to the entire LDBC and the basketball community. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, this was supposed to be Final Four Saturday. We were supposed to have the Final Four in Atlanta, Georgia, to crown a new national champion. But because of the coronavirus pandemic, all the sporting events got canceled, which includes the NCAA tournament. But it don't matter because we're gonna keep it pushing today. So, got some things we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna talk about the uh, the entire 2020 Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame class too. We're also going to discuss about who is really the greatest college basketball player of all time, based on a observation that ESPN did this week. And then we're going to talk about who should also be in the Basketball Hall of Fame, though, too. Okay. And then we're going to get into about, again, the NBA angling to cancel the entire basketball season. So, with no further ado, let's get in here. So, for all the people that's coming in, just go ahead and smash the like button as you come on in here. Okay. So, we're going to jump into the big story that came out yesterday. Salute to TKTB for posting out this story, though, too. You understand? He's the big OG here. So, according to a report by Brian Windhorst of ESPN, the NBA right now is now angling to cancel and basically shut down the entire 2019-20 season after the China Basketball Association basically shut down their entire season. So, reading from this article here. Now, I'm going to read this very out loud. This is from Brian Windhorst of ESPN. He said, "The talks between the players' union and the league this week. I've talked to both sides on of this issue, and it's clear that the NBA is angling to set up a deal that enables them to shut the season down. Now, they don't have to do that yet, and the way they're negotiating, they're leaning themselves an option either way, but they're not having talks about how to restart the league. They're having financial talks about what would happen if the season shuts down, and I think there's a significant amount of permiss, pessimism going on right now. Boy, that's a little bit of a difficult word, but so on March 31st, Hornhorst reference to the Chinese Basketball Association plan on playing to return to play basketball in April, and then an effort that was basically thwarted by the Chinese government. Okay, China's attempts to restart sports are being watched closely by leagues across the world. Huge ism is astronomical carriers. Okay, so let's put it like this in this perspective. Okay, so right now, the NBA has kind of been taking its cues from the China Basketball Association about what to do if the league starts to shut down. Now, I talked about this on my normal time on Friday nights yesterday about this issue. Okay, I talked about how the league as a whole makes about $8.5 billion of revenue, and how missed games also duplicates to the players having to pay back the amount of money that they would be paid for each game. Okay. Now you guys can go ahead and look back, on the live stream there. That's I see my brother TJ Wilkins in the building. Salute, my brother. Salute, salute. So put it in this perspective. The league right now is going to have to really discuss a couple of things. One, how to make sure that the players continue to maintain their salaries without having to have to pay back at least 50% of their annual salaries that they're going to be missed out because of the cancellation of the season. And two, how to make sure to even up the money so that way there's not much of a huge loss for both sides of the equation. So a lot of these things right now are going to be a lot of the discussions that both the league and the players union are going to have to discuss about. Now, they can't go in this to a full cutthroat type of situation, because if that happens, there's going to be lawsuits coming in. There's going to be a lot of implications that are going to happen if they play those cards. All right. So put it like this. I think from this point forward, I think from my perspective, I think the NBA and the players union are going to have to agree upon how much money should the league get back and how much the players should be getting paid here. Now, the top tier players, the superstar players like the Kevin Durant's, the Steph Curry's, the LeBron James, I'm talking about the superstar players, they're going to be eating good, okay? Because except for Anthony Davis, because right now he doesn't have a guaranteed contract at the moment because he didn't sign the contract extension that he was given to during when the season was in session. Because he kind of tried to play his cards like, listen, I'm going to be as a free agent and try to scope the free agency market to see what deals can I have. But now you don't know when basketball is going to resume. So now you don't have a guaranteed contract. So now you're basically stuck right now. So Anthony Davis is in a bit of has been a kind of in a bad position here. But regardless, I'm talking about this elite superstar players. Okay, those guys are going to be eating good. It's going to be the middle tier guys, the bench role players, and the free agents that you have to be worried about. All right. Listen, there's no way that the league is going to continue the playoffs. And I see my brother GJ Wilson said this could be a sloppy first or second round of the playoff basketball. To be honest with you, if the league goes on this course of canceling the entire season, you can forget about the playoffs because there's no way that you can get all these players to now just come back, play basketball, and all of a sudden make sure that everything's okay. Because remember, the coronavirus is also an airborne virus. It can spread anywhere. But the bigger thing is that you're gonna have to quarantine. You're gonna have to check up, the officials, the players, okay, the camera crew. You're gonna check up the entire, arena facility. You know what I mean, to make sure that everything is all clean and spotless before you decide to play basketball. Because if that's not the case, then it's not gonna work. You know what I mean? Seeing and unseen boxing. Salute, my brother. How you doing? That just is what it is. So at this particular point in time, I don't see how you can force an NBA playoffs with those kind of difficult circumstances. I know that the league has tried very, very hard to try to, continue the season, but I just don't see it to be possible. There's just no physical way you can get, teams to come in, play on a neutral site, on a reserve site where there's no chance of players getting hit with the virus. All right. What's going on, GG? What's going on, my brother? So yeah, listen. The thing is this: Chillin' King just here to get some game. Yeah, no problem, man. Yeah, just here to discussing about on the league possibly canceling down the entire season. But like I said before, there's just no way to be possible how you can get players to come in freshly made, getting ready to go, get themselves in shape to start off the season. I should say to continue the season, okay? And it would be impossible. And besides, players are not going to play. I'm not going to give up 50% of their salaries to the owners. It's just not going to be possible. They're going to have to sit down on the negotiation table and work out a financial agreement to make sure that there's going to have to be a split between, players' revenue, salaries, and all the money that the NBA produces off of the revenue they get off of the collective bargaining agreement. So there's going to be a lot of talks along the way, but I would tell everybody, just keep your eyes open, keep your ears peeled, and listen and read all the news that's coming in before we jump down to any conclusions. But if you ask me if I'm a gambling man at this point, I'd say that if the NBA is going to cancel the season, there's just too many unfortunate circumstances that's not going to be in the NBA's favor. And if they allow the players to put themselves at risk to get into coronavirus, there's going to be lawsuits waiting to happen. So it's just not possible to finish out an entire season and playoffs, you know what I mean, and not pay any consequences for that decision. And unfortunately, it's going to be sad because for the first time in the history of NBA basketball, we won't have an NBA champion. You know what I mean? Listen, to be honest with you guys, it's been a really rough year, with the death of David Stern and obviously the unexpected death of Kobe Bryant. You know what I mean? And then all these other storylines that we had that we were getting ready for the entire season. You know what I mean? Now it's all on pause because of what's going on with this whole coronavirus pandemic. So we just have to be patient and we'll see where this goes. But I just don't see how the league can continue playing basketball under these dangerous circumstances. It's just not possible. And right now, baseball's on hold. Soccer's on hold. They're going to push the Olympics till next year. All right, the Summer Olympics in Tokyo. Okay, we don't even know if the NFL is going to start their season too. So everything is on hold right now. We just don't know where things are going to stand when this whole pandemic slows down. But we're just going to have to wait and see where this unfolds. So now I'm going to get into the next subject in hand here, which has really been the big subject in hand here, where ESPN did like a poll, like who was the greatest college basketball player of all time, and they chose Michael Jordan. Okay, they chose Michael Jordan as the greatest college basketball player of all time. Okay, now they basically are launching a program, launching the greatest college basketball players of all time, with various different people and various different analysts to ask who was the greatest player on both men and women's side. And what I had heard is that they chose Michael Jordan as the number one greatest basketball player of all time. And I looked at that and I said, with due respect to my hero, Michael Jordan, but let's be real. Michael Jordan, as a freshman in North Carolina, was not the best player on that team. He wasn't. He absolutely wasn't. When you look back at that 82 North Carolina championship team, that was Dean Smith's first national championship team, okay? Think about that. He had Jimmy Black as his point guard, who was basically a 4-year starter, okay? Then you had Jordan, who was the two guard, who was only a freshman. And remember, Dean Smith had strict rules when it came to publicity for freshman players. Okay. Then you had the All-American James Worthy, who was going to be the top pick in the draft, and he was their best player. And these idiots on East analysts totally forgot about that. And then you had, you know, Matt Doherty, who was basically a role player for that team, okay, as a power forward. And then you had Sam Perkins as your center, okay? Listen, James Worthy was an All-American, and that team made it to the national championship game the previous year where they lost to Isaiah Thomas, Bob Knight, and the Indiana Hoosiers. It was an absolute joke. Now, when you look at Michael Jordan's accomplishments here as a college basketball player, I'm going to pull this up right here, right now. This is going to be real quick. This is going to be super easy, okay? As you look right here of his college basketball achievements, okay, he was consensus National Player of the Year in 84. He was a two-time All-American, ACC Player of the Year in 84, and first-team All-ACC in 83 and 84. Okay, but again, that was when Michael Jordan was basically the main focus, but he was not essentially the star player. In 82, like I said, James Worthy was the greatest basketball player, all right? And sure, he had the iconic shot against Georgetown in the 82 title game, but who was leading them in scoring in that game? That was James Worthy, slashing, driving the ball to the basket, with the mid-range jumper, dunking on the Georgetown defense, okay? That he was the star of the game. He had 28 points in that game. It was basically the most outstanding player of that game, all right? That was absolutely ridiculous. Scene Boxing says Corona's consistently messing up the sports world right now. Absolutely, man. Definitely agree. TJ Wilkins says that poll was a joke. Absolutely, bro. And we're about to get into that right here and now. I am very, very disgusted that they totally disrespect the one player that for about the 3 years he played, about the 4 years he played college, he was the most unstoppable force in the history of basketball. And that man is arguably known as Mr. Lou Alcindor, a.k.a. Mr. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. All right? The 7'2" monster. Okay? This guy was literally the guy that started the Bruin dynasty in the late 60s and the early 70s. Okay? Now, when he basically entered to UCLA in 66, the only reason why he never played as a freshman because there was a freshman rule in the NCAA where freshman players weren't allowed to start on the varsity level in NCAA, which is a weird rule at the time because that rule doesn't even exist anymore. But when he became a sophomore, are you kidding? This guy was literally a dominant force. Okay, this guy, when you basically look at his career achievements, think about this for a moment. Okay, he was 3-time college player from the year for 3 straight years from 67 to 69. He was consensus first team All-American in those same 3 years. Okay, he was basically three-time NCAA champion, and most outstanding player for all three of those seasons. And he led them to an undefeated season in his second year. All right. And listen, this guy averaged about at least 25 points per game during his career. Okay. And also, here's another thing though, too, that a lot of these young fans forget about. Okay. They forget about this all the time. Did y'all know that the NCAA, when Kareem was playing in the NCAA level, they outlawed dunking? All right. Because for some reason, it was basically an unfair advantage where he could basically guide the ball into the basket. All right. But listen, this guy, when he established the sky hook, it was the most unstoppable weapon in the history of basketball. There's not many players that could block that shot other than Mark Eden of the Jazz, who was basically the same height as him. But regardless, okay. Thing is this: Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was the most dominant player and basically changed the way the center position was played. He was a dominant force. And for anybody to keep disrespecting and keep forgetting about this man, and we have to remember, this guy is still the NBA's all-time leading scorer. All right? 6 MVP awards, 5 NBA, actually 6 NBA championships with the one with the Bucks, okay? This guy was unbelievable. This guy was a dominant scorer. His career averages 24 and a half points per game, okay? This guy played at least 1,560 games, and he's basically, until they started keeping track of starts starting from 82, he started all 625 games, okay? Starting from 82. All right. This guy is the model of consistency and was one of the anchors of the Showtime championship teams in the 80s. If you keep disrespecting this man, I'm going to punch somebody in the face that tell me that Michael Jordan was the greatest college basketball player ever. Because with due respect to my hero, he's one of my all-time favorite players, my personal favorite. But he was not the star in North Carolina during that time. I'm sorry. All right. He was not the dominant force that Kareem was when he came into UCLA and dominated and started the Bruin dynasty that went through Kareem, went through Jamal Wilkes, okay, Henry Bibby, who's Mike Bibby's father, okay, and then you had Gail Goodrich, and don't forget you had Bill Walton. All right, Bill mother freaking Walton. All right. This guy, Bill Walton, had one of the greatest games of his NCAA career in the 70 in the basically in the 73 title game against Memphis State, when he hit 21 to 22 shots and scored 44 points in the title game, which is still the most points scored in the history of the NCAA championship game. Go look that up. So for anybody to tell me that otherwise, y'all smoking something. Y'all man, y'all need to check yourselves when it comes to this whole greatest college basketball player of all time talk. Because listen, you don't not tell me otherwise. Kareem dominated his position and put his name in there as the greatest college basketball player of all time. You cannot tell me otherwise. There's no way possible. And if you try to debate that or try to dispute that with me, I'm not even gonna talk to you. No way. Not even gonna bother talking to you because you don't know nothing about basketball if you say that. Okay? Now, with that topic out the way, now we're gonna get into the big announcement of all, which is basically during Final Four weekend, the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame announces their announces the entire Hall of Fame class. Okay, so today, the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame announced the entire Hall of Fame class. You understand what I'm saying? So let me go ahead and pull this out real quick. Give me 1 second. Hang on 1 second. There we go. Perfect. Perfecto. All right. So The three main guys obviously on the list as the face of that class are obviously Kobe Bryant, Tim Duncan, and Kevin Garnett. And also, RIP to Kobe Bryant. Absolutely. GG says facts. Kareem scored over 50 points in the first half of a game. Yes, right. I totally forgot about that. You absolutely right. Frank Formo says I agree, bro. Yep. Nobody can argue with me about Kareem. But now let's get into the Hall of Fame class discussion, okay, guys? So right now we got the announcement of the entire 2020 class of the Pro Basketball Hall of Fame. All right, you guys. So obviously, the three guys that are already in the Hall of Fame today are Tim Duncan, Kevin Garnett, and RIP Mr. Kobe Bryant, guys. You know what I mean? It's a very, the one thing that I really, really hate about this is that Kobe Bryant is dead, and we won't be able to hear him, talk about his accomplishments and talk about his life in basketball. So it's really the sad part about all of this is. So RIP to the Black Mamba. But when you look at all three of both KG, Kobe, and Duncan's accomplishments, I mean, they're just unbelievable. Both these guys, all three of these guys came into the NBA during the mid to late 90s. KG came out of high school in the 95 draft. He was drafted fifth overall. Okay. 96, Kobe Bryant followed in the same footsteps and actually was scouted very well by Jerry West and immediately made the big trade, trading his center Vlade Divac to the Charlotte Hornets for the draft rights of Kobe Bryant. All right, which opened up cap space and room to bring in Shaquille O'Neal, which basically paired together the 1-2 punch combination that went on to win championships. And then Tim Duncan was a top pick in the 97 draft out of Wake Forest. Tim Duncan was just the epitome of basically a dominant power forward. When you look at if you combine all three of their achievements together, all three of these guys combined for 48 All-Star appearances, 4 MVP awards, okay? 25 times first team All-NBA. I'm talking about all three combined, okay? 26 times they made first team all-team defense, okay? 6 All-Star MVP awards, okay? And also 11 NBA championships, all right? There's no doubt in my mind that all three of these guys belong in one class in the Hall of Fame. I mean, that is just arguably one of the greatest basketball Hall of Fame classes you'll ever find. But the sad part is like I said, that we won't be able to hear Kobe Bryant speak. I mean, I can't even believe it's been almost 4 months since he died. I mean, it doesn't feel real right now, but that's just the reality of the situation. Now, when the whole pandemic slows down, I hope they do the induction ceremony, you know what I mean? And either Vanessa Bryant can speak on his behalf, which would be really, really great because she did a great job in Kobe Bryant's eulogy at Staples. You could see maybe Jerry West could do it. The possibilities are endless, so we'll see. But the one thing that I would say that would be the biggest regret if I would say with Kobe is that Kobe and Shaq didn't embrace each other early on until after their playing days were over. If they would have embraced each other during their respective playing days when they were together, there's no telling what they could have won, the amount of championships they could have won together. Besides the 3 that they won. Okay? But I think that I'm very glad that both Kobe and Shaq were able to sit down together, on their famous one-on-one interview a couple years ago, and just talk things over and talk about how their experiences together, how they grew up together, and how they formed that great 1-2 chemistry together that brought the championship glory to the city of Los Angeles, and the drama that was behind it. I mean, it was basically nonstop drama every single week. It wasn't about if they were going to win the game. It was going to be if Kobe and Shaq were going to be at each other's throats. And when Shaq left, there was so much pressure on Kobe Bryant to basically win some championships because many people thought that Kobe wasn't anything without Shaq. And Shaq won his championship in Miami in '06. That fueled Kobe. It fueled Kobe to really go out there, you know, silence his critics, you know what I mean? And basically stuck it and break their hearts. And he went on to win 2 more championships in '09 and '10 to go along with 5. I mean, that's just great achievement, man. So there's that. And then obviously you have, Kevin Garnett, you know what I mean? One of the first high school players in at least about 25 years to make it to the NBA. I mean, KG was kind of a slow build up process because unlike Tim Duncan, who was basically polished and ready to go for the NBA, KG had to go through some growing pains and literally had to really endure a lot of, hardships before he got to his place in the NBA. Okay. I mean, a guy that came into the NBA as a very young player, and he was a very mature player, for his age at that time when he was just a young kid. And then as he grew into his frame, his intensity, his passion for the game was just infectious. I remember games in the Target Center where the energy in that Target Center was always electric when KG played, and KG fed off of that energy, especially that '03-'04 season. Whew, it was the greatest thrill ride to be around, and that was when when the Timberwolves finally did it right and got him the pieces around him, like with Latrell Sprewell and Sam Cassell. But the Timberwolves did him dirty later on, and then they traded him to the Celtics, where ultimately he teamed up with Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, won his championship, and became Defensive Player of the Year. You know what I mean? And now he's going to be in this place in the Hall of Fame. And I have to say, I think KG is really wrong in this beef with Ray Allen, bro, because KG needs to realize that, listen, it was not Ray Allen was being forced out of Boston because he was basically in constant trade rumors nonstop. And they weren't giving him any love and any respect. And they were starting at Avery Bradley in Ray Allen's starting position. You think Ray Allen was going to be accepted to that? No way. That's why he made the move, and that's why he decided to leave, Boston to Miami, because there was no loyalty in the Celtics for Ray Allen. And I felt that KG was being too petty about it. And I really didn't respect KG for that kind of slight, most though. Now, don't get me wrong. KG is always intense and always fierce as it gets. But I think sometimes he was being too petty for too much to a fault, though. But oh yeah, Tim Duncan was probably one of the best is one of the best power forwards in the game. Pretty much was a guy that basically was the guy who led the Spurs to them championships. Okay, TJ Wilkins says if Shaq would have stayed in shape in the offseason, who knows how great his career would have been. You know what, bro? I tell this people like this all the time. When Shaq won his first championship, he got lazy. He got lazy because he felt like, listen, I won my championship. I finally proved my critics wrong. Now I can just relax and do what I want. And as a result, he got fat, he got out of shape, and Kobe, he leaned on Kobe a bit too much. And he found out admit, he said, listen, because I had you, I can relax a little bit because I don't need to get ready in shape though. I'll get ready when I'm ready because I don't need to get in shape for dunking and all that. Because I had you, you know, I could just relax a little bit. And Kobe was like, yeah, you see, that's what pissed me off. That was it right there. And if I were Kobe's position, I would be mad too. Like, listen, I'm putting in, nonstop hours at the gym, getting ready, getting in shape to defend our championship, and you out there eating junk food, getting fat. Like, bro, are you kidding me? No, I would have been mad too. Like, bro, get your fat ass in the gym and get in shape, bro. Like, for goodness sake. Yeah, I would have been mad though too if I were Kobe Bryant. But yeah, if Shaq and Kobe if Shaq would have committed himself to staying in shape in the long run, there's no telling what he could have been. He could have been the all-time leading scorer in NBA history, for crying out loud. Because when Shaq was dominant in the paint, you could not stop him. And then you combine it with Kobe's ability to break down the defense. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I mean, it was just amazing. But let me get back to Tim Duncan here, okay? Tim Duncan, grew up in basically in a very different position. He grew up in the Virgin Islands, and unfortunately, he lost his mom, the breast cancer when he was only 14 years old, and that's when he started to transition into basketball. So, the one thing that I would tell you about Tim Duncan is that Tim Duncan was just a quiet, silent competitor. He always was just stone faced. But when his play did the talking, you knew his intensity came out in his play. And he was the reason why the Spurs are the 5-time champions as they are. And don't forget, people forget this. The San Antonio Spurs, before their championship years, they were proven as a very talented team, but they were not a resilient. They were basically a soft team. All right. Not David Robinson, though, because David Robinson played tough. But the Spurs, when they were going through adverse situations during the postseason, they always floundered. And unfortunately, David Robinson, you know, uh, David Robinson took a lot of the criticism. Black Hand TV says no notification, no. Yeah, it's okay, man. You know how YouTube has been messing around with a lot of our live streams, though. It's not just LDBC channels, so they're because of the whole coronavirus pandemic. A lot of the notifications are not getting dropped right now. So, you know, just you just could share the live stream, though, guys. But I normally will go live at Fridays at 9 p.m. Central Time. But this is about the Hall of Fame, induction. So this is a bit of a special here too. So, but thank you, Black Hand TV. Much love, bro. But yeah, so when Duncan was drafted, everything changed. When Jim Duncan was drafted, he was basically the star player of that Spurs team. It was not David Robinson anymore because David Robinson had a bad back and he slowly was declining in age. And David Robinson, at one of the greatest classic moves he did was he stepped out of the way. He stepped out of the way and allowed Tim Duncan to take the reins as the main go-to guy. And he allowed Tim Duncan to run wild. And when that happened, there was no stopping him. Nothing you could do about it. All right. And he gave Garnett, he gave Kobe fits, he gave Dirk fits, he gave everybody the business during his prime. You understand what I'm saying? And so at the end of the day, man, all three of these guys, they're very, very worthy of, Hall of Fame inductions. And, we'll be, hopefully when the whole pandemic thing is slow down a bit, that we'll probably hear these guys speak in their Hall of Fame inductions, but we'll see what happens from here on in. But the other people that also made the Hall of Fame, though, too, um, Tamika Catchings, who I had the honor and privilege of meeting her, in 2015 in New York City. You know what I mean? One of the greatest women's players in the game, guys. I mean, she was an absolute beast. So go check on her career achievements, though, guys. She was just a flat out beast. All right. From Tennessee and basically leading them to a championship in 1998 and finally got her championship ring in the WNBA in 2012. You know what I mean? And so go check out her career achievements. She was just an absolute beast. And she was a very, very nice lady. One of the most classiest people you'll ever meet. And she's very fun to play with, though, too. I remember, just talking with her, engaging in conversation. She's very, very funny. Absolutely. Double G says the big fundamental, great player. Absolutely. For Tim Duncan, absolutely. Absolutely for certain. So the other also people that also made the Hall of Fame, Rudy Tomjanovich, the coach for the Houston Rockets that helped lead the Rockets to the championships in the mid-90s. And I will say this, though, about Rudy T. Rudy T was the one guy that was able to unlock the full, talents of Akeem Olajuwon. All right. Because remember, Akeem was stuck in a bad place in his career because he felt that the Rockets were basically backstabbing him in every turn, that they weren't trying to build a championship team around him. You know what I mean? And when they started putting the pieces around him with the Cassells, the Kenny Smiths, the Vernon Maxwells, the Robert Ory's of the world, you know what I mean? And with Mario Elliott too, and Sam Cassell as well. Then with Rudy T, he basically teach Olajuwon how to pass out of double teams and how to find open shooters. Basically, the inside-outside passing game attack with 3-point shooting. basically put it like this: the the Rockets were basically a little bit of the Warriors, but a bit ahead of their time. And now you had to make a decision. Are you going to double team Olajuwon? Are you going to double team? Are you going to stick on to the 3-point shooters? Because if you don't stick with Olajuwon, he's going to drop 30 on your head. If you try to just double team Olajuwon, they're going to bury you with 3-pointers. And a lot of teams couldn't figure out how to stop that, and which led them to 2 straight championships. So definitely, Rudy Tom Donovan definitely gets in there. And unfortunately, he's also infamously known for taking that punch against Grover Washington in 1977, which pretty much shortened his career pretty much after that. But yeah, definitely definitely well-deserved Hall of Fame induction. Um, Eddie Sutton, who coached many, many years in the NCAA level, most notably with Oklahoma State and Kentucky. Um, former former FIBA executive Patrick Baumann, okay. Coach Barbara Stevens, who's one of the greatest Division II women's college basketball coaches of all time. And Baylor coach Kim Mulkey, for there's probably there's a huge bag for Kim Mulkey on this subject because of what she was treating, how she treated you know how she treated her players, and her stance on all the stuff that has been going on with Baylor University, guys. I mean, this is absolutely ridiculous, but definitely with her accomplishments and the career achievements and victories and championships, definitely she belongs in the Hall of Fame, as much as I hate to say it. All right. Now, this leads me into the next transition here of guys that were not in the Hall of Fame that should be in the Hall of Fame right now. And I took the opportunity to think about some players that definitely deserves to have a look at and deserves to put their names in there. The first one on the list, and arguably this is going to be a guy that's going to be talked about for years to come, okay? Mr. Chris Bosh, okay? A lot of people continuously keep disrespecting Chris Bosh, all right, because he played the third fiddle of the big three in Miami when they were winning championships, okay? But if you look at the man's achievements here, guys, he finished with his career averages at least about 19 points per game, all right? He was basically a 2-time champ with the Heat, okay? 11-time All-Star, rookie first team All-NBA, okay? Plus, he was the star player for the Toronto Raptors. Okay, he was basically the star player for those Toronto Raptors teams that were making the playoffs. Okay, now listen. Unfortunately, he didn't have much of the credit or the respect there, because when he was playing with two first ballot Hall of Famers in LeBron James and Dwayne Wade, people. I've heard this all the time in these debate shows when Skip Bayless say like, well, Chris Bosh is not a great player. He's just, third fiddle. He's just, the the forgotten star. You know what I mean? Like, really, bro? And then I heard some people talking about, oh, Bosh was weak. He's not a banger. He was never a banger. All right. That wasn't his game. He was basically a face-up player, okay, with a mid-range jumper, and basically was a very good defensive player, though, too. All right. If he were to, put it like this: if he would have stayed the majority of his career in Toronto, or played with a different team where he was the sole main focus, okay, he would have achieved a little. He would have had a little bit more accomplishments to his name, but he sacrificed all that in the guarantee of a championship, okay. And he got his rings when he was in Miami. But I feel like Bosh is being pushed aside because of politics, and it absolutely is not right. Absolutely. TJ Wilkins said, I party like a rock star when the Rockets won back to back. Oh, yeah, man. Most definitely. And he also said Chris Webber, too. Oh, yeah. I'm about to get into Chris Webber right now. I'm about to get into him right now. The other guy that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame, and I don't understand why this guy is not being put in right now, is obviously Chris Webber. All right. 5-time All-Star. All right. He was basically, he made it to the NBA All-Second Team in 2000 and basically 3 times. Okay. He was basically All NBA third team in 2000. Okay. All right. Basically a rebound. He led the league in rebounding in 99. Former Rookie of the Year in 1994. All right. And when he was in college in Michigan for those 2 years, okay, he was basically consensus first team All-American in 93. freshman of the year in 1992. All right. Mr. Basketball in the state of Michigan in 91. All right. This guy was just a star player everywhere he went. And everywhere his teams went, they won everywhere. All right. But unfortunately, there's a lot of controversy around Chris Webber's around legacy because one, the Michigan basketball scandal. There's still a lot of people that not forgiving Chris Webber for it, and I feel like you guys need to let it go. And then number two, he moved to various teams over time. You know what I mean? He didn't stay in Golden State for at least for the majority of his career. He only stayed there for 1 year. And the reason why he stayed there for 1 year is because Don Nelson wanted to transition Chris Webber from a power forward into a center. All right. Because Don Nelson likes to play small. He basically was a coach that wanted to play small ball. And, Chris Webber did not like the idea of playing center. And, he's basically didn't want to play for Don Nelson, and he requested being traded. You know what I mean? And he got his wish and got traded to Washington. All right, and then he spent a couple of years there. You know what I mean? He made the playoffs in '97 and made his first All Star team in '97 too. And then he wore out his welcome in Washington too, and then arguably got traded to Sacramento. And at first, he didn't want to play in Sacramento. He had no intentions of being there. But when he got to Sacramento, that's where his career took off to another level and basically helped build that dormant franchise into a championship contender. And if it wasn't for those crooked referees in the 2002 Western Conference Finals, the Kings would have been NBA champions. I'm sorry. That game 6 and that conference finals in 2002 was absolutely ridiculous. 27 free throw attempts in the fourth quarter. Are you kidding me? For the Lakers, please. It was listen. I don't normally say that all games are rigged because I think people sometimes blow it out of proportion. But that game, that Pacific game, that game 6 of the 2002 Western Conference Finals was the most rigged game I have ever seen in my life. There's no doubt in my mind the Kings should have won that series. But it was absolutely ridiculous how the NBA did the Kings dirty, forced that series into a 7th deciding game in which the Kings fell short in overtime. But there's no question that Chris Webber belongs in there. And those factors right there are probably one of the reasons why his name is being held off of the list at the moment. But most definitely, he deserves to go into the Hall of Fame. No doubt in my mind. Now, the other guy that I have been protesting to have his name in the Hall of Fame the longest on this channel is Tim Hardaway Sr. And I know why they're doing this, and I'm going to explain to you why in a few minutes here. But the thing is this, though, man. The thing is this. Tim Hardaway Sr. made a huge impact in the NBA, man. Real talk, bro. If you look at his career achievements, okay? When you look at his career achievements, he was a fall-time All-Star. He made first team All-NBA in 97 through his first full year in Miami. He was 3 times he made to the All-Second team, okay, in 92, 98, and 99. All right. NBA All-Rookie team in 1990. All right. And basically won a gold medal in the 2000 Olympic Games. All right. And arguably was the guy that was the innovator of the crossover dribble move. Okay. The same crossover dribble move that Allen Iverson used and a lot of other players use now. All right. That guy would basically everywhere he went, his teams won. All right. And when he got to Miami, he and Alonzo Mourning and Pat Riley changed the culture of that Heat team. All right. And became title contenders. All right. And helped them lead to their first trip to the Eastern Conference Finals in 1997. All right. But I'm going to tell you why his name is being held off of the Hall of Fame at the moment. Okay. Because was an interview that he did on the Dan El-Battar show, in Miami in 2007. And this was in response of a former NBA player that came out, admitting that he was basically homosexual. All right. So what Hardaway said, he said on that show, and this is unquote, this is what I have here. He said, well, I hate gay people. So I let it be known. I don't like gay people. I don't like to be around gay people. And I am homophobic. I don't like it. And it shouldn't be in the world or in the United States. He even also said that if he found out that one or more That if he had one or more gay teammates, he would try to get them fired. And from that statement alone, it's the big reason why this man has been blackballed out of the Hall of Fame. But let me tell you this right now. He apologized for what he said, a day later, okay? And he basically did everything he could to live up to it because in September of that year in '07, he spoke about those comments and he said, I had no idea how much I had hurt people, a lot of people. He called it as the biggest bump in the world in his life. And he said, I'm going to do whatever I can to correct it. That's all I can do. And he's basically educating himself on LGBT issues. Okay. And in July of 2013, he was the first symbolic signer of a petition proposed to the amendment to the Florida State Constitution and overturning Florida Amendment 2 and allowing same-sex marriage in Florida on the ballot in 2014. So my point is this. Tim Hardaway said what he said back in '07, but it's not, listen, it's absolutely wrong for this guy to be blackballed out of the Hall of Fame after something that he said. And listen, we need to be forgiven as a society. All right, we keep continuously blackballing these guys for the mistakes that they made long time ago. All right, listen, Hardaway paid his dues and he's been making up for what he's done. And it's not right and it's not fair that this guy keeps being blackballed out of the Hall of Fame. With there's other guys on that Hall of Fame that do not deserve to be in, and also that done some worse stuff than what Tim Hardaway has done. All right, it's absolutely ridiculous. Put this man in the Hall of Fame and quit playing these political games. It's absolutely ridiculous. All right, so yeah, those are the three guys that definitely deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. Also, Walter Davis, from the Phoenix Suns, deserves to be in. Kevin Johnson, too, of the Phoenix Suns as well, deserves to be in as well. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, all these guys, done very well for their respective times in the NBA. And for neither of them to get into the Hall of Fame is just beyond ridiculous. As I see my OG Muhammad is the one in the house. What's going on, my man? Man, chilling, bro. Just shooting the stuff. I'm some basketball news. That's about it. Ricardo Rimpiel says, "What's going on, brother?" With the fist sign. Man, much love to you, man. Peace, man. Peace. Like I said before, this was a really, really great list. I'm not mad about the list at all. But at the end of the day, man, those three names alone are guys that deserve to be in the Hall of Fame. And if any of these guys do not get in for the next few years, I'm going to really, really be frustrated. I really am. Now, I understood why they didn't want to put those guys in. Okay, it was basically unfortunate circumstances were surrounding Kobe Bryant, so they weren't going to do it, for either of those guys then. And I don't know if they're going to do it for next year's class. But certainly, Bosch will get in eventually, but it might take a couple of years for him to get there. Chris Webber might take a little bit longer, depending on what happens with his his disassociation with Michigan. You know what I mean? Although they made up for it, a couple of years ago. You know what I mean? But Hardaway Sr. is going to be the one case I'm going to be watching the most, because that right there, the Hardaway case is going to be the one case I'm going to be, protesting and I'm going to be fighting the most for him to get his name into the Hall of Fame. That's the guy that deserves to be in the Hall of Fame more than anybody on this list. And for these, voters to continuously blackball this man out of the Hall of Fame, for the mistake that he made, and he's redeemed himself from that mistake, is beyond ridiculous. This just goes to show you how unforgiving our society is and how hypocritical we as an American society have become. All right, there's no reason why Tim Hardaway does not belong in the Hall of Fame. Put the man in there and quit playing around these games. That's all you need to do. All right, absolutely ridiculous. But yeah, that's just pretty much is what it is, though, bro. But I'm going to go ahead and shut it down for the night, though, guys. But let me know what you guys think in the comments section about, this Hall of Fame class. Who else would you want to see here besides the three names I mentioned here too, though, guys? But I'm gonna go ahead and call it a day, though, guys. But I will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Time for my returning show of Boxing Talk. We're gonna get into all of the boxing discussions. You know what I mean? All the big topics around boxing as we try to quarantine ourselves to this whole coronavirus pandemic. But a major salute to all the nurses and all the doctors out there that are battling on the front lines. You know what I mean? Um, you know, basically risking their lives out there. As I see my brother, Mr. Tiptoe, in the house tonight. Man, we're just about to get off so soon, though, bro. So, you can catch it up on the replay, though, bro. But I will be back tomorrow at 7 p.m. Central Time for my you know, boxing talk show there, which is going to conclude, was going to be coinciding with Coach Shelton Harris's live stream, too, guys. So, but much love to all the nurses and all the doctors out there fighting on the front lines. You know, you know, trying to risk their lives to try to save a lot of people during this whole coronavirus pandemic, though, too, guys. So keep your hearts in the prayers, for all the people that are suffering through the coronavirus pandemic. RIP to Kobe Bryant. You understand what I'm saying? And then we see all the brothers, Robert Stewart there, Gigi here. Much love to you guys. Much love, guys. But thank you guys for tuning in to the special on basketball conversations right here on this channel. Make sure to smash the like button on the way out. So this is Bill Mehari, represent MehariNation Sports Podcast for basketball conversations. Salute the entire LDBC, and have a good night, guys. Peace.